Welcome everyone to Prepositions, a poetry reading with Elyce Melmon. I am Lauren Hesse, the Director of Alumni Engagement at Castilleja, and my job is to bring our community together, and being a part of this event makes me so happy. So thank you all for being here. On behalf of Castilleja, we are thrilled to host this event today in honor of and to share the work of one of our most beloved teachers, Elyce Melmon. We had about 60 RSVPs and attendees, and it looks like about 50 people here today, which is amazing. The attendees include alumni, former teachers, current teachers, friends, and family. When Elyce and I discussed hosting this event, one of the things I asked is, well, what about your book? Because people are gonna want your book. And Elyce was so wonderful. She generously offered to donate her book to raise funds for Castilleja tuition assistance. What a special gift from Elyce to bring us together for this poetry reading and to help our community give to tuition assistance. It's important to know that tuition assistance this year is important every year, but especially important this year because so many of our families and students have been impacted by COVID. And with the inspiration of Elyce, all of you have come together to raise over $1,000 for our students for tuition assistance. So thank you all so much for your generous gifts. Having this event was the idea of one of Elyce's dear friends, another former beloved teacher of Castilleja, who I want to introduce to you today, Nancy Flowers.
Thank you. I'm going to introduce Elyce, who's somebody who really needs no introduction to this group at all, but it's still a real personal pleasure to introduce my dear friend. You'll see us on the screen about 1980 at recess. Like many of you, our friendship began at Castilleja. We had adjoining classrooms and in the English department office, adjoining desks. And our friendship has continued well beyond Castilleja for more than 4 decades. We've shared marriages and funerals and grandchildren, divorces and illnesses and birthdays and anniversaries, and a love of gardening, and of course, a love of literature. When you hear her poem today, Why I Write, many of you who were her students will remember how Elyce gave you the confidence and the skills to begin to write yourself. Elyce.
Thank you so much, Nancy. That was really lovely. And I can't begin to tell you how touched I am. This is kind of like a Castilleja deja vu. I spent so many happy years in room 18, and many of the people who are here on this Zoom call were there with me, making my experience one of the most rewarding of my life. So I thank you all for joining me today. Nancy was, of course, the instigator for this reading, but she also was enormously helpful to me in putting together a book that really was intended for my children and my grandchildren. So the poetry is personal. I think most poetry is personal, but particularly mine because it's not political and it's not terribly philosophical. And Nancy's thought was that maybe some of my experiences over a long period of time would resonate with you. It's really hard for me to believe that I retired from Castilleja 23 years ago. 23 years, that is a long time. I really wish that I could have a personal one-on-one meeting with each one of you who are here today so that I could hear what's gone on in your life in the past 20 years. But I'm also at the same time marveling at this technology that's bringing us all together. And I feel very humbled because as I look at the list, I realize that I'm in the company of many, many talented writers. I could start rattling them off to you, but I'm afraid I might miss someone because there are so many really talented people in our group. So thank you so much for being my support, as my colleagues have always been. my best supporters. And I hope that one or two of my poems might speak to you. Thank you so much for being here. The book is called Prepositions. And that's because I think probably like you, I spent a lot of years scrambling for little successes, comparing myself to other people, stressing a lot. And what I realize now in my older age is that none of that really mattered very much. The only thing that really mattered are my relationships. Relationships with places, events, objects, but most of all with people. And so I decided to title my book Prepositions, and I've divided it into 5 sections. The first is called Before, and as you could guess, those are early poems. The second one is called Between, and they're poems that are dedicated more to places. I had the privilege of traveling with my husband to some wonderful areas, and I have some poems about Africa and Tiananmen Square, Kathmandu. So those are included. And then the next section is called Beside, and those are poems for and about people. Unfortunately, many of the poems that I wrote are about people who have died. And that, I guess, brings me to the next section, which is called Without. And those are poems of sorrow. I've experienced some heavy sorrows myself and found that writing was the one thing that really helped me through the grieving period. And from there, the last and 5th section is called Beyond. I don't know where we're going from here, but I do know it's beyond. So without further ado, I'll read some poems to you, and then I really look forward to some conversation with you at the end of this. So thank you. The first poem is called Evolution. I wrote this when I was in high school, around 1955, maybe it was 1956. I was, I think, a junior or a senior at Lowell High School in San Francisco. So, when ingratitude grows to a gregarious function, and everyone wants to act like no one and be treated like someone. When man creates chocolate saints that he proudly consumes to conceive waste, I will sit upon a broken branch, meticulously picking lice from my own furry arms, and occasionally I will laugh. The next poem is about my maternal grandfather. It's called Cultivation. And you may notice that there are a lot of garden metaphors in the poem. I spend a lot of time in the garden, as Nancy suggested. And so I love the idea of putting very different roses next to one another, maybe even grafting them. And so I use that pretty much as a metaphor for what my maternal grandfather was probably going through. Cultivation. My Zeta, so many Sabbaths ago, sipped his tea through a sugar cube. He taught me to sing, told me whom to marry. It was spring. I listened, but rarely heard. You may love, he allowed, but none who speak in foreign tongue. Immigrants relish order. Walk where the grass is fittingly young. Let the fringes of stars form a border. Let the light of morning designate your way. With all your heart, with all your soul, follow. Now, in blossomless winter, I bury bulbs, blanketing soil around their necks to warm the worms who blindly sift through silt. Rising from the mulch of time, familiar scents like chance recur to channel memory weeds the winds decline to carry. Bare roots rest on man-made mounds, manipulating the fertile dirt, secure beyond barbed wire. My Zeta, so many Sabbaths ago, sat in the shade to read his Yiddish news. He refused to relish the fruit of fresh fears. Phrasing admonitions in a voice that echoed the dead. Wear them as a signpost upon your head. Choice is bold luxury. Children climb each fence. No dispensation from some weary God who has forsaken sight. Zeta scorned my mirth as sacrilegious spite. Some buds survived the freezing of the night. Ground that was parched has been quenched. At each birth and awe, hybrids in their proper place blossom with new worth. He ached to save what he called pure. The compost of what used to be nourishes a strength in me that will endure my doubt. At dawn, I deadhead. Forgive us our forgettings. Each season suffers. Blooms bow before a jealous wind. The song swells to sonata. With all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy might. Again, I cultivate heritage and French lace. Graft just Joey to Mr. Lincoln, judiciously cut between the thorns. Beyond winter's death, I dig for my grandfather's faith. Fingers bleeding with forbidden stigmata. And the next poem is one closer to home. I'm sure many of you have enjoyed this Rodin sculpture garden as much as I. As if they understand, they lean into sorrow, a mirror for man who dreams of becoming a work of art. As if they see beyond the eyes eyeing them, the fears, frustrations, the boredom, the banal torture of being. As if they hear the footsteps on gravel paths, the bells telling time to go on and on, the myriad clever cell phone songs. As if they swallow adulation, spoken not to praise but to impress. As if they suffer the follies of arrogant inspiration. As if they could remember that once, long ago, they too were human. And the next is based on a true experience. My guess is that some of you will relate to it. It's called Stray. Uninvited, undeterred, she sat before the sliding glass door of my kitchen, a bard willing to sing for sustenance, prima donna anticipating applause. She knew I knew her, fellow female with needs unmet. Did she expect that I would see myself in those piercing green eyes? If a fluffy pup, an injured bird, a wayward child, I'd never turn my back. Just a sip of milk to sate the skeletal waif and send her on her way. Her entrance was graceful. Politely, she consumed the offering, meticulously cleansing her paws and then vanishing into near night, only to return at dawn. Just a crack. I opened the door, a crack, to relieve my anxiety at her arrogance. Then up she pranced upon my clean counter, agilely sidestepping a vase, a rose, framed pictures of my lost loves, and unmitigated presumptions of this uninvited guest moved me to tempt her to my patio with a tin of tuna. Her motored bones against my bare leg. Was it thank you? Affection? Seduction? It had been so long, so long. On the next rainy night, I let her share a soft repose, a bit of nourishment to turn her plea to purr. But let it go no further. I would make it clear. I am neither mother nor lover, perhaps an occasional friend, just that. When she offered gifts, her treasured bounty from a hunt laid out upon my waxed floor, and intimate, intact cadaver, my queasy stomach rebelled. We are responsible for those we save from the cold, the dark, the night's anonymity. We are responsible, and then there is no turning back. The next poem may also be familiar to you, Spotting an Egret on Sandhill Road in the Morning. So unexpected. Her beauty, oblivious of itself, accepts, announces the nuances of morning. Her silence demands hushed response. I turn the news off, shift into neutral, grateful for the red light so I can pay homage to Her Majesty. She doesn't belong in this playing field, and yet she calmly commands it, dry and bugless beneath the peon clouds. I've never seen her here before. It may be unfamiliar to her as well, yet she governs as though elected with acclaim. Gracefully, with the ease of one who knows she's being watched, she glides into prominence, transforming the routine commute into a magical journey. And the next is At the Seattle Museum. I've seen the bones of Lucy. Waited for a mythic response like bobcats staring down the thread of day. Skeleton encased in silent glass, once danced, once ached, broken and mended and tenderly touched. I've seen the bones of Lucy, smelled the jungle on her skin, poked toward that hole that was I. What can she confirm? What would she deny that sanctions our sisterhood? From daughter to daughter to daughter, her blood now dried, once raged. Her spine is upright as my own. Where is the soul that centered her? Did it seep from her small frame to sate a child's hunger for tomorrow? Did the will vanish under the weight of female brawn, ephemeral as a feather flown onto my kitchen floor? Are we linked through the need to be needed? The thirst for love beyond the labyrinth of love? I've seen the bones of Lucy. Can there be only birth and death? Or do our words relay a promise that bones cannot convey? Thank you. And, so this next one is written with appreciation to Rupert Brooke. I think in my creative writing classes, I used to tell students to choose a poem by someone that you really like, a poem that you love, and then emulate the rhythm, maybe the rhyme, the rhythm and the rhyme of it. So I decided to do this too. And this is taken from a poem that Rupert Brooke called The Visit. If you have a chance to look it up, I suggest you do. It's a delightful poem. It's about a young man who's waiting in the woods on a moonlit night for his sweetheart to arrive. And he does. And she's got lots of petticoats and, you know, makes a lot of noise and sits down and quacks beside him. And his mood is totally broken and his love is gone. So I thought that I would write about a woman in a similar situation, a response perhaps. This poem is totally imagined. I don't want you to think it's real. So, caught in the tremor of your voice, I cling to what has not been said. Pretend that I might have a choice of songs once heard and poems once read. The clouds unravel to tease the night and emulate the sea's distress. And though I stay, I long for flight, for softer stars and quietness. And even the sky is snarling. And I know what I know cannot be much, though this second is worth a dying. When the moon and the music are ruled by you, and my love shrinks, self-defying, and the day wilts at our touch. So soon a silence will open a door that leads to the joys I knew before, to golden paths for dancing feet and promises of hands that meet, applauding the one that we've become, the truth that's so hard to cheat. And I know I'll remember to forget your words that bounce with violent beat, afraid of the return, your torment exploding with savage heat, too paralyzed to learn that there is more than wrong and right, more than lost and found. And we can be consumed by night, ascending into sound. And the next was written for an elderly couple I knew and loved. It's called Gone. They have been friends, the kind of friends that only lovers can be, turning toward one another's smell, sensing winter words before they swirl like helpless ginkgos in the wind. They have been lovers, the kind of lovers that only friends can be, who taste the salty blood of sorrow, their passions dangling, vulnerable as the roots of tender teeth. They have known what not to know, spoken each other's thoughts, sipped from one another's cups, assuming what they felt could be found and forgotten. They have outlasted beauty and outlived lust. Perhaps you label it love, this justice that outgrows time. Do not say, at least they had. Do not call it a loss. It is loyalty. The loyalty that sews our soul into the seams of immigrant coats. The loyalty that runs beyond the finish line. She is not gone. She has died. And death is never a blessing. And the next poem is in a lighter vein, which maybe we knew we needed. And this is based on a very real experience. That was fun. It was a lot of fun for me. He looked like a football hero. I had the sense I had seen him before, somewhere in a place-defying time. At the car wash? At the grocery store? Somewhere, standing in a line where unobserved, I could observe his fine form, his body, a poem, a structure dedicated to the throngs that would place him above measurement, transcending wrongs. He carried himself with that sense of knowing he could be admired, like a painting or song, something that has completed a season of growing, something that could expect to belong to the many, but at the expense of the few who would know his flaws, find the true beneath the persona of beauty and youth. He caught my eye. Did I stare at his silver earring, his velvet skin, ivory tooth. Should I speak to him before we part? No, I was too old to follow the heart down a path better lost than won. I had the sense I had seen him before, somewhere in a place-defying time, perhaps a dream that stung to the core of who we are when we're not afraid to hurt, who we are when boundaries disappear. I came home and put on my husband's shirt. And then there are those poems from the section called Without, the poems of sorrow. This one of my death. I think it was written in 2003, maybe. During the days of my death, dust gathers on tabletops. Strangers speak to me as if I'm alive. Birds incessantly silent, water still. During the days of my death, I have no need for sleep. Like childhood, my dying passes without definition or the grace of an hourglass. It slips from my soul and scatters on the floor like crystal. After the days of my death, I clear your desk, teach the books to honor absence. Cotton cocoons relax the pages of our life. Unborn spiders sleep within. They listen to the chiming of the clock. Your jeans and a flannel shirt hang in the closet waiting. They wait with the simplicity of pain or prayer. I'm early for our date. And you, my love, are late again. And the next is called Off Course. It's the things we never talked about that follow like foamy wake after you surged ahead to a place I cannot go. Those things we finally came to know or tried to believe to avoid crashing into invisible rock. Silences spurred us, puffing our sails, wind ruffling surf, until the reflections shivered with sleepless life. I think we knew that what we didn't know became the glue bonding our days into one. Even now, madness clings to meaning like a spider dancing on invisible thread. Our kisses sizzle out like frothy water, softly vanishing into the depths behind us. And this one is for Amy, my granddaughter. It isn't like a game of hide and seek where I can search and tease you out from behind the crusted trunk of a climbing tree, laughing at how cleverly you fooled me. It isn't that I can conjure you with some magical prayer until you evolve, scholarly, sensitive, older, but still young, transformed into goddess now that you are not. Don't think I think of you constantly, though it may seem so, or that I know your voice, your whisper, a sigh carried on midnight wings. I do see your questing eyes and the quiet stoic stare of a doe caught near the roses, defiant in the shade of twilight, determined to grasp a sweet. It is as though a butterfly blinks over synthetic grass, watching realities die. A feather falls from nowhere to the hood of my car. A teardrop merges into the sea. It's just that you have become a part of all I love. And loving you gives grace to grief. Promises that endings born of beginning have begun again and again until the anguish wears thin, and you and I and the butterfly are one. And the last poem that Nancy referred to. This is from the section called Beyond. Why I write. In the shadow of an antiquated light in a well-trod alley in Barcelona, he plays the saxophone like a coyote baying at a full moon. We understand. Music is not bound by language. He wails and weeps into and out of brass, the clear notes sailing around dark corners, calling to native and tourist alike. Yes, there is a hat at his feet. A few coins begged to merge with more. But he doesn't play for money. He plays because it is who he is and what he wants to become. I write because I don't know how to play the saxophone. And thank you. I think that's all that we had planned. And now I look forward to some conversation with those of you who are here.
That was beautiful, Elyce. Thank you so much.